I've had this OPPO Reno4 5G Pro for about a month now, and I want to say this straight away. I really like this phone. It represents a lot of smartphone for its 999 New Zealand dollars price tag, and that's really important to remember. The Reno4 Pro 5G isn't meant to be a high-end Android smartphone, and it doesn't pretend to be the best of what Oppo can offer in an Android smartphone either. Instead, it's a device that sits in this new subcategory of mid-range phones, a category that has the majority of features customers want and need, without a few extra specs that force flagship phones to come with massive price tags. This phone has 5G, an excellent Full HD Plus AMOLED display with a 90Hz refresh rate, a good Qualcomm chip, very solid battery performance, that wicked Super VOOC 2.0 charger, and a reasonable price tag. These are the specs that make the OPPO Reno4 Pro 5G so attractive. Okay, forgive me now, I'm going to bang on a bit about the Snapdragon 765G chip inside this phone, but it's important, so try to stick with me. As a very loose rule, you want the best Qualcomm Snapdragon processor in your high-end Android smartphone, but this isn't a high-end Android smartphone. For 2020, this means the Snapdragon 865, and this phone doesn't have it. The OPPO Reno4 Pro 5G has the Snapdragon 765G instead. Is that a bad thing? Well, yes and no. The 765G is a more modest and affordable chip, and that goes some way to explaining why you can buy the Reno4 Pro 5G for $999 here in New Zealand, whereas the Oppo Find X2 Pro will cost you $1,699. The 765G does limit what devices can do though. It can only support Quad HD Plus displays with a 60Hz refresh rate, or a Full HD Plus display with a 120Hz refresh rate, for example. The 765G chip has a different CPU configuration too. It's still an octa-core processor, like the 865, but it has 6 efficiency cores compared to the 865's 4 efficiency cores. What that means is the split of the octa-core processor is a little bit different. This phone will have 6 efficiency cores and only 2 performance cores, whereas the 865 will have 4 efficiency cores and 4 dedicated performance cores, which is better. Anyway, this is all very specky and nerdy. What it all means is that this phone is able to handle smaller loads fine, but will struggle to keep up with high-end phones when any heavy lifting is required. Should you care about all this? Well, it depends on what sort of phone user you are. If you just use your phone for regular things like web browsing, photography, messaging, or social media, I suggest you won't notice much of a difference at all. However, if you want a smartphone that can play the latest mobile game like Call of Duty Mobile or PUBG, or you want to switch between apps, then you will start to notice the mid-range chip. What I will say is that this phone and this chip felt speedy enough to me. So unless you need a super fast phone for something specific, it's fine, and don't worry about it at all. Here's what you need to know about the display. It's a 6.5 inch 20:9 aspect ratio with a Full HD Plus 1080 by 2400 display with a 90Hz refresh rate, which in the real world means it's a slightly smoother display than most mid-range devices that usually run at around 60 Hz. And its 402 pixels per inch count is decent too. And it's AMOLED too, which is another win. Basically, it's a good screen and you should be happy with it. Another win is that you get 5G in a mid-range Android smartphone, though it's a slightly watered down version of 5G. And that's due to the 765G chip we spoke about earlier. It boasts a maximum theoretical download and upload speed of 3.7 GB per second and 1.6 GB per second respectively. This is dwarfed by the Snapdragon 865's 7.5 GB per second and 3.0 GB per second speed, but it's not a high-end chip as we said earlier. The good news, however, is that the 765G chip features an integrated 5G modem, whereas the 865G chip, the flagship chip, doesn't. And this means that the chip inside this phone should be more energy efficient when connected to a 5G network. I think if you give most people the choice between saving $700 or faster 5G speeds and more pixels than the eye can see, most people will want to save their money. Right, let's talk about the cameras next. Cameras are what everyone cares about these days, and the OPPO does a good job at covering the basics and a bit more. There are 3 rear-facing cameras here, a 48 megapixel camera that supports optical image stabilization, a 12 megapixel ultra-wide-angle secondary camera, and a 13 megapixel telephoto lens that supports 5x hybrid optical zoom and 20x digital zoom, though I take the digital zoom claim with a pinch of salt because images taken at this range look minging. The Reno4 Pro 5G does a great job at capturing still images with a 48 megapixel shooter. I managed to take some stunning images that are comparable to the iPhone 12 Pro Max with this phone. And I can't think of a better compliment I can give the Reno4 Pro than that. However, image detail and contrast starts to drop when you change to the ultra-wide camera, and then it reappears again when you use the telephoto lens. The device performs well in low light conditions too, producing sharp and colourful images, although distortion can be found pretty easily when you start zooming in on these images. And you'll need to keep your hand steady for around 5 to 10 seconds for the camera to capture these low light shots. Oh, and there's a 32 megapixel selfie camera too, with Oppo's AI beautification, but whatever, it's a selfie camera and it's fine. There's 4K video at 30 frames per second too. The concept of a mid-range phone shooting 4K video still feels a bit mad to me. The fact that $999 New Zealand dollar Oppo Reno4 Pro can capture 4K video is remarkable on its own. And while it doesn't offer the same picture quality as Apple's 4K 60 frames per second iPhone 12s can, the results are still impressive. My major complaint with this phone's 4K video is that it's guilty of overexposing the picture. But again, it's important to remember this is a mid-range phone. I'll put more camera footage and still images and comparisons to the iPhone 12 devices at the end of this video, so skip to there if you want to see those. This phone has Android 10 and Oppo's ColorOS 7.2 over the top. As ever with Android smartphone manufacturers, you don't get stock Android 10 on this. Oppo has put its own ColorOS 7.2 on top of Android 10. The good news is that it's not really that noticeable. You can change your icon designs to match regular Google's designs if you're bothered, but the ColorOS is mostly an unobtrusive experience, so I'm okay with it. Oppo is a little bit guilty of forcing bloatware onto this device. Its video editing app SoLoop and other apps such as Oppo Relax, GameSpace, Music Party are the main offenders here. Mercifully, you can uninstall these apps via the app tray, creating a more vanilla version of Android 10. A lot of noise has been made about the feature icon pull down too, but it's not really that special. Other tool phones have similar features that work just fine, so it's just a bit meh really. Battery performance is solid here, there's nothing to worry about. This will easily last you a day and a bit more, but if you do find that you've chewed through your battery, there are a couple of features to make your last few percentages last. Super power saving mode will only let you use 6 apps, which you can choose, and it will extend your phone's battery life a lot. My estimated battery life went from 11 hours and 36 minutes to 17 hours and 29 minutes with this feature turned on. It's perfect for scenarios when you know you can be away from your charger for a long time. And super nighttime standby will only drain your battery by 2% over a duration of 8 hours. Ideal for when you're sleeping somewhere and a charger isn't nearby. I love Oppo's dedication to charging times. And this Reno4 Pro 5G includes its industry-leading 65-watt Super VOOC 2.0 flash charging technology. This means it would charge the device's onboard 4000 mAh battery from 0 to 50% in under 12 minutes, or fully charge the device in half an hour, which is frankly insane. The only downside is that there's no wireless charging, but I'll say this again, this is a mid-range phone. Wireless charging is exactly the sort of superfluous feature that bumps up a device's price. Okay, there's 6 more things you need to know. First of all, the biosecurity is pretty good. You can use the in-screen fingerprint sensor or face recognition to unlock the Reno Pro 5G. Or, you can use a PIN or pattern unlock, whatever you like. 2. There's 256 gigabytes of onboard storage, but no expandable memory, which is slightly disappointing. 3. It's dual SIM. 4. There's no headphone jack. 5. It has a curved Gorilla Glass 6 display. And finally, the design, which I don't mind at all, which is just as well because it only comes in one finish, which Oppo calls Galactic Blue. I think it's okay. Okay, so my verdict. I really like this phone. The price, first of all, is really competitive. It has all the features you need from a mid-range phone. The screen's great, the camera setup's really good. The biosecurity's good, it has 5G. It's everything you need from an Android smartphone. The only decision you need to make really is whether you like the design, and I think it's nice. Okay, like I said earlier, I'm going to end the video with some examples of some videos and some pictures I took earlier with this phone, and some comparisons of the iPhone 12 devices so you can see what's going on there. We do tech reviews every week. We've got Apple Fitness coming up next week, and I think AirPods Max. So hit subscribe so you don't miss out.